From the moment Kyle began opening up to Graham Foster instead of his father, it seemed inevitable that the situation would end in disaster. Now that the truth has emerged, Cain has been left deeply shaken. He always believed he shared a close bond with Kyle and had no idea his son had been feeling isolated while Cain was distracted by his own struggles. Kyle has endured more than most children in recent years. After accidentally shooting Al, losing his mother, watching Moira go to prison, and learning that Cain has cancer but refuses treatment, the emotional burden became overwhelming. Unable to process everything, he started setting fires around Emmerdale Farm, targeting barns. Graham uncovered what Kyle had been doing and became the one person the youngster trusted enough to confide in. However, Kyle is now focused on another painful mystery, finding out the truth about his mother's death. Determined to get answers, Kyle confronts Kim and Joe Tate, demanding they finally tell him what really happened. Joe played a key role in Amy's death after Charity drove a limousine off the road to avoid Noah, who had stumbled into traffic after Joe drugged him as part of a plan to steal his kidney. Amy survived the crash, but later fell into an icy lake and eventually died from cardiac arrest. While Kyle presses the stunned Tates for the truth, Graham arrives and attempts to calm the situation before it gets any worse. Kyle eventually leaves, but when he returns home, Cain and Moira are alarmed by how distressed and unsettled he appears. Cain immediately blames Graham for Kyle's emotional state and storms over to Home Farm, ready for a confrontation. In his eyes, Graham has already caused enough damage to his son. Furious, Cain warns Graham and the Tates to keep their distance from Kyle, threatening serious consequences from the Dingles if they ignore his warning. The confrontation leaves Graham caught in an impossible position. As soon as Cain departs, Joe corners him and demands to know where his loyalties truly lie, forcing Graham to face a difficult moral dilemma. The following day, Cain's emotions remain out of control, and he once again loses his temper in front of Kyle, making matters even worse for the troubled youngster. During the heated moment, Cain notices something alarming outside. Kyle has set a shed on fire. The situation quickly turns even more dangerous when they realize Monty the dog is trapped inside the burning building. Without hesitation, Cain smashes through the shed door and battles the flames in a desperate attempt to rescue the beloved pet. Everyone watches in shock as Cain rushes the badly injured dog to the veterinary clinic, while Kyle is left consumed with guilt over what has happened. Paddy later delivers devastating news, explaining that the family must prepare for the worst. Cain's anger flares once again, and he struggles to keep his emotions under control around Kyle. However, Paddy soon reveals that the fire is not Monty's biggest problem. The dog has been diagnosed with cancer, and his limited time is due to the illness rather than the blaze. The diagnosis forces Cain to confront an uncomfortable truth. While his first instinct is to do everything possible to save Monty, he realizes he has refused treatment for his own cancer, leaving him to question whether he is being hypocritical. Kev Townsend is set to make a surprising move in Emmerdale next week, as he tries to convince Lewis Barton that he genuinely wants to be part of his life. Following the recent ordeal that led to Lewis being kidnapped because of Kev's actions, the former criminal is determined to make things right. Whether his latest effort will win Lewis over remains uncertain, as the damage between them may already be too great to repair. A newly released preview offers a glimpse of the emotional scenes ahead on the ITV soap. Kev returned to the village earlier this summer, appearing eager to leave his troubled past behind by launching his mobile cake business, A Slice of Kevin. However, his fresh start quickly unraveled when it emerged that he had stolen a valuable diamond. Although Lewis found himself in grave danger because of the theft, Kev initially refused to hand the jewel back to his former partner. The situation was eventually resolved when Ross Barton stepped in, knocked Kev unconscious, and rescued his half-brother. In the aftermath, Kev revealed to Lewis that he was his biological father, but the revelation was met with rejection, as Lewis made it clear he had no interest in building a relationship. Even so, Kev has refused to abandon hope, and is determined to prove he deserves a place in his son's life. Upcoming episodes will see Kev make a major personal change in an attempt to earn Lewis's trust. Despite trying to become a better man, he still can't resist provoking Nicola King whenever he gets the chance. In a preview clip from Wednesday's episode, Nicola is furious when she discovers Kev has parked his cake van directly outside her cafe. As she grumbles about wanting to set the vehicle on fire, Lewis arrives after visiting his parents. Lewis barely has time to catch up with Nicola and Vinnie Dingle before Kev eagerly calls him over to the van. With obvious pride, Kev reveals a brand new sign that now reads, "Barton's Cake Tin." When Kev asks for his opinion, Lewis is left puzzled and immediately tells him to change the sign back because Barton is not his surname. Kev then reveals that it actually is now, explaining that he has officially changed his name by deed poll to Kevin Barton. Lewis insists that all he wanted was for Kev to respect his wishes and leave him alone before walking away in frustration. A dramatic police storyline is set to unfold in Emmerdale as Bear reaches breaking point with Caleb after uncovering a disturbing truth behind his latest business venture. Caleb has recently turned to selling counterfeit products after a tech-savvy teenager exposed just how rusty he had become when it came to criminal activity. Encouraged by Kerry Wyatt's convincing designer handbag, he convinced himself that fake goods were an easy way to make money without hurting anyone. However, that belief couldn't be further from the truth. His lack of awareness has already been obvious after insisting the counterfeit items he was selling had no connection to sweatshops. Considering he was also easily fooled into believing his daughter urgently needed £5,000 for a flat deposit in London, his poor judgment is hardly surprising. The reality is far darker, with the fake merchandise linked to sweatshops that rely on modern slavery. That makes the situation especially painful for Beowulf, who once endured exactly that kind of abuse. Bear previously suffered horrific treatment after being held captive and forced to work on Celia's farm. The traumatic ordeal only ended after he fought for his freedom and was later arrested for killing the woman responsible for his imprisonment. As Caleb and Kerry continue making money from the counterfeit operation, Caleb warns her to stop openly talking about their illegal dealings. Unfortunately, their conversations do not go unnoticed, as Bear witnesses the pair discussing the scheme. The situation takes a shocking turn when Carrie discovers a shoe containing a hidden label with the words "Help me" stitched inside. The discovery confirms that the counterfeit goods are indeed connected to sweatshops, proving Caleb's earlier claims completely wrong. Deeply disturbed by the message, Carrie urges Caleb to report the evidence to the police immediately. Instead, Caleb becomes more concerned about protecting himself and preserving the profits from the operation than doing the right thing. Bear is outraged by the thought that they may be helping to support such horrific exploitation, and his emotional reaction leaves Kerry stunned. Given Bear's own history, and the fact that his friend Anya died at the hands of their captors, his anger is entirely understandable. Kerry is disappointed, though not entirely surprised, to discover that Caleb has still refused to contact the authorities. Bear confronts Caleb over the issue, while Billy Fletcher is brought into the conversation and urges his boss to make the responsible decision. Despite Billy's advice, Caleb delays taking any action. Rather than dealing with the problem, he starts thinking about a different money-making opportunity altogether. Emmerdale is broadcast on ITV1 every weekday at 8 p.m. New episodes are also available to stream from 7 a.m. on ITVX and on YouTube.